Good evening. Thank you for coming to our second half of our meeting for the month of May. And Joe Wishmeyer, would you lead us in the pledge?
Certainly. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Marnie, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Steve Friedman.
Here.
Councilmember Deb Gillis.
Here.
Councilmember Anna Richards.
Here.
Vice Mayor Don Horton.
I'm here.
And Mayor Sharon Mahoney.
Yes.
We have a quorum.
Okay. Council, requests for deletions, additions. Deb, do you have anything?
Can we delete the meeting? No, I guess not.
Don?
No, ma'am.
Steve?
Nope.
No? No. Okay.
Madam Mayor, I just want to note for that tab D, the resolution to consider the administrative appeal has been continued to July 24th, in case there's anybody in the audience
Oh, that's the Dead Animal Bar.
for the Safari Lounge. That's correct.
Sorry,
So
that's what I know it as.
that will be continued to July 24th. There was a procedural error, so that will be
July
continued.
24th?
July 24th.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, let's move on to public comment. Marnie, do we have anyone?
Two. We will start with Joe Wishmeyer.
Thank you, Joe Wishmeyer, Plantation Key. Mayor and Council, in the past, I have asked the question about who is responsible for making the agenda. Who makes the final decision as to what items go on the consent agenda? Mayor, Council Communications, and Village Attorney, Village Communications, to which some important items have been discussed without any chance for public comment. Finally, the Council, after listening, decided to move the public comment after all communications were done, as to receive public comment. December, January, and February meetings reflected those changes. Now, March, April, and May meetings, public comment was moved back up before communications, again, not allowing any public comment. Now, with the new village manager, I would hope to again move the public comment after the communications to encourage more public involvement. Next, I wonder if any council members read the report about the traffic that will be added to segment 21 on Plantation Key. An additional 1,638 trips a day will be added to Plantation Key, where US 1 already goes from 4 lanes to 2 lanes with 2 schools in that same area. With only 1,622 trips available from the 2021 COVID year traffic study, that's 16 trips over the max. Bart Smith says that they will pay $18,104 a year for the next 12 years for mitigation towards Freebie and Islamorada. First of all, I thought that Islamorada was going to turn Freebie over to the county. Second, $18,000 a year towards the cost of Freebie to taxpayers isn't very much. That would also mean that with Tavernier Publix using all available trips on Plantation Key, no more development would be allowed unless the businesses paid $11,080 per additional trip, which is the equivalent of what they're paying for Publix. This seems very unfair to the residents on Plantation Key, businesses that want to expand, and additional congestion around our schools. Monroe County Code and Islamorada Code cover this problem with intergovernmental coordination. Do not allow all available trips on US 1 to be taken and create even more traffic congested in an already vulnerable area. Thank you again for the status update sheets available at the last meeting and on the mayor's newsletter. We appreciate that.
Thank you, Joe. Marnie?
Next is David DeHaas Grosbeck.
Good evening, Council. I think all of you know me. David DeHaas Grosek. I've owned DeHaas Consulting and Design for 35 years. I hope this was passed out to you, a sheet. Did that get passed out?
Yes.
It did? Thank you. So here's why I'm here this evening. I am asking you to please direct your director of planning to add 2 words to the definitions and to your land development regulations. The 2 words are museum and charging station. You don't have museum currently anywhere in your LDRs. You have 2 museums. The one I worked on with Dr. Bauer was permitted under commercial square footage. This is inappropriate for a museum because commercial square footage, by its definition, says it is to generate revenue. Museums do not. So I'm hoping you will direct your director to work on that as we move forward and have the word museum and a definition and applied to the appropriate uses. I've made some suggestions to you. The next word is charging station. We don't have anything for charging stations right now in the land development regulations. Previously, there was a client who had a possible tenant to lease area to set up a charging station, which couldn't be permitted. So they walked away, and there is nothing right now in the pipeline that I'm aware of. I have nothing in the pipeline. I don't have any applications concerning these 2 words. It's just something we need to address and need to do. We need to try and stay current whenever possible. I know you're working on a lot of the regulations and your comprehensive plan, so I thought this would be the opportune time to add these 2 words, museum and charging station. And I've given some information to your director and for you for reference, and I'll answer any questions. Thank you very much.
Council, anybody have anything? Deb? Don? Anna? And Steve? I guess we're good. Thank you very much, and we'll have a discussion about this.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you very much. Marnie?
There is no one else signed up.
Okay, public comment is now closed. That brings us to the mayor council communication. If it's okay with the rest of the council, I'm going to have Ty Harris come up after the village attorneys and get him out of here as he's got to see his new grandbaby. So if that's okay with anybody have a problem with that? Go ahead, Deb.
I don't have a problem with that, but I also would like to address the public comment.
Okay, well, I'll let you go ahead and do that now before.
Okay, because they're right. We did move it between village attorney, village manager, communications, and resolutions so that it gave the public a better choice of things that they could comment on, and I hadn't noticed it got moved back.
Okay.
So,
John?
It was an accident.
sorry.
This was something that actually
It was an accident.
Ron and Marnie had talked about. It just, the Civic
just
Clerk
happened.
software, I think, kicked it back to the default, and we hadn't noticed it, but we actually noticed it earlier in the week, and so, but,
Well, that's
thank you,
your-
Joe, for bringing it up. We're on it. It'll be back in June. Yeah.
John, that's your one mistake then you get to make in May, okay?
And it's early in May, too.
Okay. I'd like to bring something up very quickly for the council to consider and to hopefully we can get Lisa in our finance department to put out an RFP for a grant writer. Someone who can go after, there's a lot of grants out there that we can get. We could do it on, a friend of mine does it and gets a percentage, and I don't know what that is yet to look into, of the grants that they get. So it doesn't impact the taxpayers, it doesn't impact our budget. And since I've been working with the Transportation Board and with the ramp up in Tallahassee, I'm amazed how many grants there are out there that we should actively pursue. So if it's okay with the rest of the council, I'd like to ask if we can maybe put out an RFP and see what we can get.
So you're not talking about an employee, you're talking about somebody that's a
Yep.
subcontractor?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, it's amazing. I just talked to Ron, I think it was this week.
We've talked about it.
that, and I've talked in the past about possibly getting this on, so it's a good thing.
You guys okay with it?
Yep.
All right, I see his finger waving, he's next.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay, go ahead.
Just an update. I spoke today with a gentleman named Mike Langton. He's a former state legislator. He's under contract with City of Key West to do this. All he does is grant procurements. He goes out and finds the grants, works them, et cetera. I had a discussion today. I asked about a contingency fee. According to him, you cannot have a contingency fee. In other words, it cannot be based on a percentage, and I guess John can verify or not verify. I haven't talked to him about it yet. Mike is willing to come on board. I asked him to come to the June 10th meeting, make a presentation. He says he's willing to do it for $2,000 a month, which is, I think in return, I think his contract with Key West is $5,000 a month. I told him we're smaller. And so anyway, it's something that I want to bring before the council because I want him to get started, if it's Mike or whoever. I talked to our council today. I'm not sure we have to go out for an RFQ. And there's some exceptions to that, and I'll get with John about that. But I want to get us right away because there's grant money out there, and Mike is very good at getting it. Like I said, he's under contract with Key West, and I've seen, I think he charged $60,000, brought in $300,000 worth of grants in 1 year. If you have other people who want to do it, that's certainly, we'll talk to them too. I don't know who else would do it, but like I said, I think it's an important thing to do, and I would like to have it on the June 10th agenda one way or another. So if you have other people that are interested, let us know. We can do an RFQ. I just thought it'd be quicker to just do it. If we have the exemption, we can do it.
What's the downside to us putting out the RFQ anyhow, John? I mean,
Other than, time, I don't think there is a downside. I mean, it's, obviously, if multiple people go, then you have multiple people to choose from. So it's really just the will of you all.
how do you guys feel about it? Don, Deb?
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I think it's a great idea.
To go out to bid
honestly,
or
I
take
thought-
the one person?
I think we ought to entertain several people
do
and
I.
see what they do and what their talents are and what they're able to produce for us.
I agree.
But I think it's a great idea.
Thank you.
I quite honestly, I thought we had someone that already did that for us. And,
I thought we were working.
and so, but we definitely need somebody,
Thank
for
you.
sure.
Deb?
Yeah, I also thought that we'd done this a couple years ago, 3 years ago,
We talked
whatever,
about it,
something. We did talk about it. And I would be hesitant, as long as it's legal, to not go out for an RFP, sorry. We could entertain, it depends on whether or not maybe we could do both, put him on if he works by the month, and we could just say, okay, until we actually do the RFP, we'll use you. I don't know, whatever is legal.
Well, I talked to Jamie, and she already has one ready to go before I knew about the person you want. So she already has an RFP ready to go, she said. I talked to her about it, so.
Still a couple months.
Yeah, yeah. How do you guys feel? Steve?
Yeah, I think it's great. I'd look forward to hearing from him in the June meeting, so we can talk to him about some of his ideas and go through with other potential candidates, I guess.
So, Anna?
Yeah, anybody who.
So the message I'm getting is that we should put out the RFP and let this gentleman come in, and if he's the only one, and if, but I do think it's only fair to put it out to everybody. It doesn't look, for transparency. That's a new word we're learning.
I just was trying to expedite it because I think there's some grant monies already out there, but I talked to John, he thinks that we can expedite the RFQ. I guess we an RFQ, not RFP, or
P.
for qualifications. And then if we got more than one,
Okay.
I was
let
gonna
you
say,
make the fun.
there's nothing wrong with having
No.
more people that are
Right.
trying to find
Okay, so
grants.
we're on board?
Yeah, we could do a shorter application window
Yeah.
to try to expedite it too, yeah.
Thank you very much. And the last thing is the Machado property. I'd like to visit what the Audubon has to use the property and to make sure we're all in agreement with them using it and that it is signed by the village. Correct?
What's going on?
I don't know
Well,
what's that's about.
because the Audubon Society has been allowed to use the Machado property, the water, for their boats. And I think we need to have a hold harmless agreement. We need to have some type of contract with them, and it needs to be fenced off.
Is
for
there a dock
security.
there?
Yes, I live right near there, and a young man fell off the dock over the Easter weekend, and we need to protect ourselves.
And there is a use agreement that our office had drafted when this first came up. I don't know if it was ever entered into under the prior manager, and it did have a hold harmless
Okay.
agreement in there. I can fish that out
Do you
if
mind?
we, yeah, I mean, that's, like I
just
said, it's
doing my
already
job.
drafted, so I can get it to Ron, and
Thank you.
if it's not already been signed, we can get
And
one.
we had talked about maybe a fence to block off what the area the Audubon might use to keep other people from utilizing it in the back area. See, you guys, you all have these looks like, I know you don't know.
So they're
No.
using
I
the
do.
property without a contract
No,
or
they're-
agreement or?
Well, let's let John figure it out, and right now, I don't think anybody that I know of signed the contract with them. And I'm all for the Audubon. I love the Audubon. In fact, the head of it's my next door neighbor, and they keep their boats there for access. And it was an agreement they made with someone in the village and not properly, so.
Well, I would
that's
say
why I
if we
wanna fix
stick
it.
to our code says you can't have accessory uses or structures without first having a principal, so I don't know how we could allow any uses on a
Well,
piece of property that
I'm just
doesn't
trying to
have.
fix it now. You know what I
Okay,
mean?
can we ask for it to bring back on the June,
Yeah, that's why I brought it up.
so that, because I didn't know anybody was using it. I thought it was vacant too.
Nope. So the only reason I'm bringing it up is so we cross our Ts and dot our Is and everything we do. See, I'm pretty useful, aren't I? Said I'm pretty useful. Anyhow, can we look into that? Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Okay, John, we're ready for you.
There was, I just wanted to address what was brought up by Mr. DeHaas in terms of the definitions, because there's a couple of bills that pass that will have implications for this. They're still awaiting signature from the governor, but I want to make sure everyone's aware of it. In what's called Senate Bill 700 that was passed, there actually is a definition that is being added to state law for electric vehicle charging station. So that would be defined by state law, and under that same statute, it says that the regulation of electric vehicle charging stations is preempted to the state. So if that definition gets signed by the governor, I don't think we would be able to create our own definition. There's an express preemption in the law for that. I also wanted to make sure that the public was aware, in the prior electric vehicle charging station, they ended up, yes, walking away. It wasn't because it couldn't be permitted, just in the location and under the requirements of the code, they didn't, that it would allow it for being permitted, didn't work with what they were looking to do. So ultimately, they ended up walking away. The other bill I want to mention is a bill that has been talked about a lot in the Keys, which is Senate Bill 180. That's the one that gives the BPAS allocations to everyone, to the cities in the Keys and the county. In that bill, there is another provision that really no one has talked about, and it really came to my attention today when me and one of my partners were going through the actual part of the bill. There's a provision in there that says any municipality or county that was listed in one of the federal disaster declarations for either Hurricane Debbie, Helene, or Milton, which Monroe was in, I think 2, if not 3 of those, that we may not propose or adopt a moratorium on construction, reconstruction, or development, or propose or adopt more restrictive or burdensome amendments to our comp plan, LDRs, or procedures concerning certain review at all until October 1st, 2027. So, wow. And it also, so you say, wow, it's even broader than that, because that is a long time to not be able to propose a more restrictive requirements. It's retroactive to August 1st, 2024. So that would include things that cities have passed all the way back to August 21st, 2024, and it deems them void ab initio, meaning as if they've never been enacted. There are a couple exceptions in there if the application, if the change is associated with an application that was initiated by a private party, then that's an exception. So if a private party wanted to propose changes, that would be more restrictive. That would presumably be allowed. Certainly, a more restrictive change in your comp plan or your zoning map, if it's proposed by the other party, that would be allowed. But I want to make sure that this is brought to everybody's attention, because it is a huge thing. And when I mentioned it to Jennifer today, she about fell out of her chair, because it just knocks out planning. I mean, you think about it, we're going through a comp plan rewrite. That comp plan rewrite is going to, if we pass it, will be passed after August 1st, 2024. So if there's anything in there that's more restrictive, it would be covered by this bill if it's signed by the governor.
Wow.
So this is a big big issue that I think people should be aware of and people should be talking about. So I wanted to take the opportunity, since it was relevant to, not necessarily relevant directly to what Mr. DeHaas was saying, but in terms of if a private party applies to something, but I wanted to take the time to mention to everybody and to mention so that the public is aware, because if this is signed by the governor, chances are there are going to be situations where you all want to do something and our hands are going to be tied by state law just because of this until we get to October 1st, 2027. Honestly, I've never seen anything as broad as this like this. And, you know, so it's something we'll have to deal with. We're monitoring. It really got added in at the last minute to the bill. Basically right upon, shortly before passage, the Senate added it in. And it was in, you know, and the House did, I don't know when the House added it or whatnot, but the Senate added it in right before passage, and then a couple days ago, and it passed. So I just want to mention that because I was so shocked when I read it, and I had to reread it multiple times thinking, you know, it can't be this bad. And every time I reread it, it got worse.
Yeah, got worse.
So I want to make sure you're aware, because we are going through that process, and you know, it's something that will be, if it's signed, will be hanging over our head for a little over 2 years now. And it doesn't just apply to us.
Bill number again?
It's SB 180. It's actually the same bill as in that the BPAS allocations are in, and it's section 28 of the bill starts at line 1321. So it's like right at the very end of the bill. I think there's 29 sections other than the 30th one, which says it shall become effective once it's signed. But substance-wise, it's one of the very last sections because it was added in at the last minute.
Thank you.
Anything else, John?
That's enough.
Well, I know it's enough.
You don't want me to keep talking? No.
No, but
You guys look shell-shocked. You look like I looked when I was first reading this. So yeah, no, nothing more from me other than that.
And I just want to add to, I did fall out of my chair, I think, John, when you told me about it, and was speechless for about an hour. But it also, and I mentioned this to John, I don't know what we do about that, but in the same bill where it gives us the allocations, if we were to accept those allocations and then want to use them, we would have to make changes to our comprehensive plan that would likely be more restrictive and burdensome. So it's kind of contradictory to what it wants us to do here in Monroe County. So I don't know how we look at that, but.
Yeah, we're looking into that because I do think there's some internal consistencies with that, just given how we have a comp plan that spells out our BPAS system and the points, and if we have to prioritize one or another, you know, how do you prioritize them without coming in and making changes to those? So, I mean, there is one good part is that there's a 30-day cure provision. So if somebody, you know, challenges it, it gives the government 30 days to cure it. You know, whether you could or not would depend on the circumstances. I should also mention, I've already been the bearer of enough bad news. There's an attorney's fees provision in this bill too that only runs to the private property owner that's challenging it. The government doesn't get it if we defend and win.
And I know these things happen at the last minute, but did our lobbyists not flag this?
I haven't talked to them about it. I wasn't aware of it until today, so I haven't had a chance to talk to them about it. I'm not sure if I'm not sure if they were, but once I get a chance to talk to them, I'll find out more. But yeah.
okay. Deb, you have something?
Yeah, I wanted to ask a question about the other one, the charging bill. Can it be, would it be, maybe we don't even know yet, similar to what we've seen in the past where we can control location but not prohibit? And you don't necessarily have to do this tonight in that respect, but to allow us, you can't prohibit it, but you know, maybe there's a way to at least control where we're putting them, or I don't know. Maybe we don't even need it. I don't know.
Yeah, I'll have to check on that because there is a provision in that same bill that says local government entities shall issue permits for electric vehicle charging stations based solely on standards established by department rule or other applicable provisions of state law.
Oh,
So
okay,
I'll have
so
to look
maybe
in to
not.
see if that would preempt our zoning categories. It doesn't specifically say that it would preempt zoning categories, but I've got to take a look at,
Okay.
to see just how far that would go.
We just need to know the limits on what that, because we've seen prohibition issues before that we can do some control on.
Yeah, and there's a difference between, single residential charging stations and then a commercial charging station.
Right.
Where it's almost akin to like a gas station where people can pull in and charge their cars.
right.
So I would have to think that they would allow, they wouldn't
Yeah,
make
we-
us
we
put
just
commercial
need to
ones in
find-
residential neighborhoods, but we'll have to look into that.
Okay.
Okay. All right, since we are moving to Mr. Harris, Marnie, this would be the quasi judicial? He's the first.
These are tabs B and C, which correlate to Roman numerals 8A and 8B. I'll read the quasi-judicial statement. Please be advised that the following agenda items are quasi-judicial in nature. If you wish to comment upon these items, please inform the village clerk by filling out the available sign-up form. An opportunity for persons to speak on each item will be made available after the applicant and staff have made their presentations on each item. As a reminder, testimony in quasi-judicial items must be presented in person. Zoom testimony is not permitted. These proceedings will be handled in accordance with the village code requirements. All testimony, including public testimony and evidence, will be made under oath or affirmation. Additionally, each person who gives testimony may be subject to cross-examination. If you do not wish to be either cross-examined or sworn, your testimony shall be disregarded. The general public will not be permitted to cross-examine witnesses, but the public may request the council to ask questions of staff or witnesses on their behalf. The full agenda packet on each item is hereby entered into the record, along with the village code and comprehensive plan. Any correspondence that was received by the village staff is included in the file and part of the record. Persons representing organizations must present evidence of their authority to speak for the organization. Further details of the quasi-judicial procedures in section 30-256 of the village code may be obtained from the village clerk. Tonight there are two quasi-judicial items, which again are tabs B and C, Roman numeral 8A and B. They are related, so we can take them together. At this time, I'd like to ask anyone who intends to speak on the quasi-judicial items tonight to please raise your hands to be sworn in by the clerk if you intend to speak at all on those items.
In the matter in which you're about to give testimony, do you swear that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? The witnesses have been sworn.
Okay, and Madam Mayor, tab B is stated an ordinance of, and these are an ordinance on second reading. An ordinance of Islamorada Village of Islands, Florida, consider the request of Lynn L. Bell to amend the village's future land use map from residential medium to mixed use for the subject property located on Upper Matacumbe Key with real estate number 00404-730-0000000, as legally described herein, providing for the transmittal of this ordinance to the State Department of Commerce and providing for an effective date upon the approval of this ordinance by the State Department of Commerce. And tab C is also an ordinance on second reading, which is the companion ordinance, an ordinance of Islamorada Village of Islands, Florida, considering the request of Lynn L. Bell to amend the official zoning map from settlers residential to highway commercial for the subject property located on Upper Matacumbe Key with real estate number 00404-730-0000000, as legally described herein, providing for the transmittal of this ordinance to the State Department of Commerce and providing for an effective date. Council, before we begin, I would like you to please disclose any ex parte communications that you may have had with the applicant or anyone else on either of these tabs. Please include whether the person represented any group or entity, as well as the subject matter as you best recall. Thank you.
Deb, start with you.
Yes, I was on LPA when this first came forward, and I'm pretty sure I spoke with Ty Harris during that, but since then, I haven't spoke with anybody.
Don, you're null and void, right?
Yeah, out of the abundance of caution, I'm going to recuse myself even though Miss Bell is no longer a client of mine.
Okay. Anna?
Nobody.
Steve?
None.
And I talked to Ty probably the first time this came up, but not since, so.
All right, we're ready to proceed.
Okay. Mr. Harris, would you like to come up first? Huh?
Usually
staff,
under the
there's-
code, staff presents first.
I mean,
sit back down.
I'm willing to waive because we've already had the whole,
That's, I
the
thought
whole
so.
report once, so we don't have to do it again.
Yeah, I'm not going to give the
That's
whole
what I
report,
thought. I'm
but
sorry.
just to remind you, these are
Didn't mean to slight you.
flum and zoning change for property located at 81213 Overseas Highway. The flum change would go from settlers residential, no, I'm sorry, that's the zoning change, from residential medium to mixed use, and the zoning change would be settlers residential to highway commercial. The Village Council approved this ordinance on first reading at its meeting on January 9th, and was then forwarded to, the flum was then forwarded to the Department of Commerce for its state coordinated review. They provided a letter with no objections, and one comment, that copy of that letter was dated March 14th and was attached to your packet. Their one comment was that we coordinated with the South Florida Water Management District in regards to future water management planning, and I forwarded that to our Public Works Director for his review. And other than that, staff would recommend adoption on second reading.
Okay, now you can get up.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Ty Harris, PA, Plantation Key, here on behalf of the applicant. We've already done the presentation. You have the staff report. I would just respectfully request those be included into the record for tonight. Nothing's changed. This was a unanimous decision by the council. This goes back to righting the wrongs that this body has been very sensitive to and has been doing. This was a commercial property in the county, and it first came to my attention when I was the village planning director, and Mangrove Mike called me up very angry about why this property had been rezoned to residential. And so we looked to see if there was a mapping error, and there wasn't. It was done in that first round of changes where, state allows for properties when you rezone or change the comprehensive plan flume designation greater than 10 acres, you don't have to give individual notice. Notice is published by newspaper, which is what happened to the mayor, and it's happened to a bunch of people. So it's just one of those, just to remind everybody how we got here. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer. Thank you.
Council, anything for Mr. Harris? No? Anna?
No questions.
Okay, so I guess we'll start with all four. Anyone? Don't make me laugh. Marnie, do we have anyone?
Do not have anyone in favor.
Okay, so let's move to opposed.
Okay. I would call Joe Wishmeyer.
Yes, Joe Wishmeyer, Plantation Key. It's not just about this property. I'm just voicing my objection to any. We're redoing our LDRs and our comprehensive plan, and I don't know why we keep approving more and more stuff without knowing what's going to be in our new comprehensive plan. So I would just suggest that we proceed with caution and slow down and wait until we get our new comp plan so that we know that what we're approving now is going to be agreeable with that new comp plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Marnie, anyone else?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Ty, would you like to say something?
I appreciate those comments, but as you heard, if Senate Bill 180 gets signed by the governor in its present form, it's kind of a moot discussion because we know what's going to happen, which is we won't be able to touch our comprehensive plan into sometime into 2027, at least to tighten it up and make it more restrictive. So everybody has a right to apply to fix their property, and you can't take that away, even though we would all like for the new comp plan to be in place and to have that there. But you can't legally stop people from applying to change their property back. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Council? I think so.
I'll make a motion. We have to do them separately, so
Yes,
I'll
so
make a
the
motion
first.
for changing the flume as suggested.
Second.
Marnie, would you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Deb Gillis.
Yes.
Councilmember Anna Richards.
Yes.
Councilmember Steve Friedman.
Yes.
And Mayor Sharon Mahoney.
Yes.
The motion passes 4-0.
Okay, we're going to do the second half of it now, for the zoning map.
I'll make a motion to accept the staff recommendation for the zoning map change also.
Do I have a
Second.
Okay, Marnie, call the roll, please.
I'm sorry, who was the second there?
Anna?
Thank you. All right, Councilmember Deb Gillis,
Yes.
Councilmember Anna Richards.
Yes.
Councilmember Steve Friedman,
Yes.
and Mayor Sharon Mahoney.
Yes,
And that motion passes 4-0.
thank you. Enjoy your dinner.
And thank you for letting me jump the line. I really appreciate it.
No worries.
Get to see the new baby.
Okay, bye-bye. So we'll move back to then A, the first one, which would be the resolutions.
That's correct,
Okay.
yes. Tab A is a resolution of the Village Council of Islamorada Village of Islands, Florida, modifying resolution number 24-08-77 and authorizing 3 affordable housing unit allocations for award to Habitat for Humanity for a proposed development off Wren Street on a parcel identified with real estate number 00422730-000200 and not requiring that the 3 units be on village-owned property and providing for an effective date.
Jennifer?
Good evening, Council. So this request is before you tonight, just to give you a little bit of background. Back in 2017, the Village Council approved the reservation of 8 affordable units for use at what was known as Woods Corner by the Gorman Properties. Gorman Company, I guess it's called. And that project was never brought to fruition. And then last year, we brought that back to the council, those allocations, and at that time, Habitat was interested in moving forward with the project. There was a lot of discussion. Some of the council members at that time didn't want to move forward with a project at that location anymore. And then Habitat determined that they weren't interested in that project anymore. So at the time last year, the council reserved the 8 for use on village-owned properties. So fast forward to about a month or so ago, I received a call from a member of the Habitat Board who, they have another project off of Wren Street behind the Coral Isles Church that they have been trying to put together, and they have, it's a 4-lot parcel, or it's a parcel that could hold 4 single-family homes. They have one allocation that is left over from their project at 292 Gardenia Street that they're going to transfer over there. So they'd need 3 additional single-family allocations, affordable single-family allocations for this project. So they've asked if they could take 3 of those 8 that were reserved for use on village-owned lots. So that is the request this evening, is to take 3 of the 8 away from the village-owned lots and be given to Habitat for that project. I know that we have the outgoing executive director from Habitat and the new executive director from Habitat in the audience this evening, so I think they might want to speak to this request. So we are recommending that we do give them the allocations. The village has 292 early evacuation workforce affordable housing allocations that could be used on village-owned properties. It's more likely that if the village were to build affordable housing, they would build the type of affordable housing that those allocations would be more applicable to than single-family homes on their own properties. And then, as we all know, Habitat's model is more the single-family home type. So that would be our recommendation at this time, but then I will let Habitat speak to what their intention is at this time.
Okay, council, is it okay? We go ahead and let them speak?
Yeah, let's hear
Yeah,
what
please,
Lindsay and Scott
come
have
on
to
up,
say.
Lindsay.
Good evening, Council. Lindsay Fast, Islamorada resident, but here on behalf of Habitat for Humanity of the Upper Keys. And I am the outgoing executive director of that organization. Scott is the incoming, so I'd like to introduce Scott and happy to answer any of your questions in regards to the project.
Council, anyone have a question?
I got a couple of questions. Scott, welcome to the Habitat for Humanity. Welcome aboard.
Thanks, good to be here, appreciate it.
Good news. And we're going to miss you, Lindsay, that's for sure.
Thank you.
So I guess a couple of questions for y'all and for Jennifer. Jennifer, is there a defined process right now for reservation of rights?
No.
Okay, because I remember being there where Lindsay's standing a couple of times asking to have a reservation of rights to the previous council several times, and they would always balk and never completely understood why. I think reservation of rights are important, especially for projects that are ready to go. How ready is this project to go?
It depends on you guys. Obviously, we need the reservations in order to really get started on everything. We do have some plans, some rough plans. As Jennifer mentioned, there's 4 single-family homes we'd like to put on the lot. These are donor funds, so we obviously, as steward of those funds, need to have approval on those allocations before we start to solidify too much of the planning.
So you've identified the site, and the site is appropriate for how many units?
4.
What are you asking me?
Huh?
What are you asking me? I don't want to walk into a trap, so what are you asking me?
A trap.
It's 4.
When have you ever trapped you? So, I think that a reservation of rights needs to have a timeline. I think that there shouldn't just be open-ended.
Sure.
Because there are other people that are out there that may want to have reservations of rights as
Absolutely, and
well.
I think that's what happened with the Gorman project. There wasn't a timeline, and so it just kind of fell into disarray. So, yeah, it's understandable.
That's exactly right. So how much are we looking at? How have we discussed that? Have we had a conversation with the planning director? And is there a time frame that Habitat's looking for?
So I haven't spoken specifically with Scott or Lindsay about this recently. I spoke to Lindsay maybe a year or so ago just about some general stuff on this project and some general things. I've spoken more recently with some Habitat board members. And so I think, obviously we would need to have a more robust conversation with Scott now that he's here, and maybe some more of the board members to determine next steps forward. There's some there's some issues with zoning and platting and things like that we need to work out. But I think all of those things can be worked out. I don't think there's any hurdles that can't be jumped. They just need to, the process needs to be followed. So I think that needs to happen.
So I'm going to ask the next crazy question to John. John, the property they're looking at is zoned public, semi-public. With the zoning on that property is public, semi-public, how is Senate Bill 180 going to come to play if we want to change our land development regulations and our comp plan to allow affordable housing on a piece of property that we're going to have to either do a text amendment, or we're going to have to figure out how to insert affordable housing units onto a zoning district that doesn't currently allow for residential units?
I would say if we're allowing something that's not currently allowed, then I would say it would be less restrictive, so then I think we could do it without falling under that. If there was a concern that there was any portion of it might be more restrictive, then certainly Habitat could apply for it, and then that would take it. That would be one of the exemptions or the exceptions, so that we could fall through that as long as it was applied by Habitat.
Okay.
So there's ways to do it if it's more restrictive.
I think I want to wait and hear what y'all have to say, and then maybe chime in a little bit more.
Go ahead, Deb.
Well, falling in line with what Don was talking about, it's the time frame. Are we looking at 2 years? Are we looking at a year?
So
in order to do something this evening, I think we need to know that in this ordinance. I'm not really opposed to this. It's a lot of pieces.
Absolutely. We're July 1 fiscal, so we're in the budget process right now. We haven't finalized anything, but from a capital standpoint, we think that it's a viable project within 3 years.
3 years.
Yeah.
Okay. So you would be asking these to be reserved for 3 years?
Correct.
I'm just trying to clarify.
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
Done?
And you're only asking for 3?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Yeah, and just for some background, we do have 10 allocations from Monroe County that have been promised to us, and we were given 5 years on those, and we're to start those projects by 2027. So that's also part of that, how that shakes out, to give a bit of context. Does that make sense?
Say it again.
So we had 10 allocations reserved from the county, and those projects need to start by 2027. So we're playing with the timing of those as well, which is why we can comfortably say 3 years,
Okay, I got it.
if that makes sense.
Thank you.
Yep.
Done. Anna?
No, I mean, I know all about this project, and it's just a matter of going through the steps to get there, with the plating, the zoning. They just have to get to that point, so I have no problem approving.
Steve, do you have anything?
No, I'm supportive.
Okay, well, you asked the question I was going to ask, so I'm good too. So, John?
If you all are interested in putting an end time limit on it, I drafted some language and ran it by Jennifer that she was okay with, that we could, if you wanted to include that, it would be a motion to approve, and I can read that proposed language. You guys can tweak it how you'd like, and then that way there would be a time frame in there that for the use
You want
of
to
it.
read it now?
Yeah, I mean, what I wrote was just, and I picked a date, end of the month, 3 years from now. So I just said, if the 3 allocations are not utilized by May 31st, 2028, then they shall revert back to the village under the conditions set forth in Resolution 24-08-77. That's the resolution that currently governs them. So basically, it's just going back to us under the same conditions they're currently on.
Okay, good. Either or,
I
Don?
was just going to go on and make a motion to approve.
Well, I got to do public comment.
Oh, okay.
Deb?
I was going to make a motion.
Look how quick they are.
Yeah.
Anything
We
else from
wanna
the
go home
council
now.
before I open?
I just want to make
public
sure
comment?
they're good with that 3 years, though. You're good?
Yeah.
You-
I think we can make that work.
Okay.
Scott?
All right, thank you. Is there any public comment?
The only folks signed up for public comment are Lindsay and Scott.
Oh, okay. Oh, they're already speaking. So, council.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve a reservation of rights for 3 units to Habitat for Humanity not to exceed 3 years.
And I'll second that motion.
All right, Marnie?
With all the other stuff John said.
Yeah, right. I assumed that to be the case. Okay, Vice Mayor Don Horton,
Yes.
Councilmember Deb Gillis,
Yes.
Councilmember Steve Friedman,
Yes.
Councilmember Anna Richards,
Yes.
and Mayor Sharon Mahoney.
Yes.
The motion passes 5-0.
Congratulations,
Thank
and
you.
we're going to miss you.
I'll be around, but just not in that role.
She's not going anywhere.
I know.
Thanks. Look forward to working.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, that moves us to tab D. Correct?
Tab D was moved, but there's tab X was the one, it wasn't in the book, but I think it was on.
Okay.
Oh,
that's the
It's the
extra.
holiday lights one that, we were very efficient. We were able to bring it back and get it done.
Wow, that was fast.
Tab X is a resolution of the Village Council of Islamorada, Village of Islands, Florida, approving the agreement with Holiday Lightscapes, Inc. to provide holiday decorations within the village, authorizing village officials to implement the terms and conditions of the agreement, authorizing the village manager to expend budgeted funds, authorizing the village manager to execute the agreement, providing for a waiver of competitive bidding, and providing for an effective date.
I believe that would be Miss Stephanie.
Yes, hi. So like John said, we were quick enough to be able to get that contract turned around. The only changes to the proposal in front of you is the addition of the swap of the big ornament that was at the Hurricane Monument. So that resulted in an increase of $945 per year. To what Councilman Friedman asked me the other day, I spoke to the vendor this morning, and he said that he plans to have the lights up by the middle of November. So it'll be the week before Thanksgiving, and they would come back down by mid-January.
Okay. Council, do you have anything you want to say?
I had a couple questions that I posed. Were you
I wasn't able to get
catch
a
up
hold
with
of him.
Okay, never mind.
Anna?
I would just make a motion to approve the
Well,
3 years.
I think I need to open public comment first, correct?
Sure.
Yeah, you can do the motion before, or after, but we definitely have to have public
Okay.
comment. Yeah.
So, public comment first. Oh, Steve, I'm sorry, I didn't see you.
I guess my only objection is it just seems like quite a bit of money to put forth. I'd like to see the community involved where we could put that money more toward our own community to do decorations and so forth rather than it going to an outside
So
vendor.
what are you suggesting?
Well, like what I suggested the other night, where maybe we could contact the schools and see if we could get some sort of, program going where students can do a lot of this decorating and can be, that funding can be provided by us through this.
I had suggested that for the other parks, maybe we can get the schools. And you want to include this park now too, correct?
That was the original thought, yeah. I'm
Okay.
just, it seems like a lot, $50,000 a year for holiday lights. I'm all
You're
for
lucky
that.
you weren't Hayworth Henry, who had it at 115.
Well,
Either way.
I know. So how does everybody else feel?
So what are you exactly suggesting? That we buy the lights and we have the school put the lights up?
or not even lights, that they could create some other art program that would be decorating, some of these village areas, whether it's the park, whether it's South Winds, something to that effect.
So you don't want to purchase these lights at all or have any holiday decorations at this point?
No, that's not what I'm saying. I
Okay.
think that there's ways that we could save some money. And I thought that might be an idea where we could save some money doing
I
that.
thought that's what our original intention was, and we've ended up cutting this more than 50% from what
understand.
had previously been. So, I do think it's a great idea to encourage the schools and other people to get involved in, in decorating our village during that time.
That's really what I'm saying.
Okay.
Well, let me just
Well, then why
ask
don't we do the
Stephanie.
south winds, like she said?
Yeah.
I'm with doing this, so it's more professional in some of these other areas. And then let the kids do one of the other parks, or pick you have the Plantation Preserve Park, you have South Winds Park, we have other parks that.
Yeah,
we
I don't
have
want to
them
take
do
away
stuff
from
at.
what the chamber does every year and
Yeah.
how they've been able to bring the community to this park and have a wonderful festival, and without having the lights that we're putting onto this piece of property in combination of what the chamber does is going to look kind of weird, I think. So I think that I think we've saved over 50% of what was approved before, and I'm okay with that.
And maybe this gives us a 3-year lead to maybe start developing that into something else. So when this is up, then we can move into maybe an alternative.
I like it.
Deb?
Well, my only comment is that, I'd like to see some of this, it's great for the Chambers Festival and the soccer fields when they have the kids or whatever, but I'd like to see a little bit more of it out front where our tourists and our residents can actually see it. Technically, the park is closed at night. It's not that I'm opposed to spending the money as much as where we're putting it. I've questioned whether or not we need 8 wreaths on the building. I got pretty nitpicky. I know I did, but if we want some of the stuff more out front, you have to find where it is if we still want to save the money that we want to save. So that's my only point.
My concern is timing, that if we don't sign a contract, we
don't,
might not
yes.
get it at all. And secondly, how do I say this nicely, where I'd love for the community to step up to the plate, but to take everything away and just hold her breath for that the first year, I'm very scared of, to tell you the truth. That's why I like my other park suggestions.
I like your park suggestions.
Well, and we have the Hurricane Monument, they're gonna do something at the front, up by the bridge, like we have other areas.
Yeah, and I don't
That
want
are
to
gonna be-
redesign everything now.
Yes.
Yeah.
But maybe we should just try one thing this year, Steve, and start with like South Winds Park and have the school do Christmas tree decorating contest or something.
Yeah, we can get that ball rolling once,
Is
if
that-
this passes. We've
Ron,
got a
would
few
you
years to
like
kind of
that?
work on that.
Would you like that, Ron, to spearhead that? You can go to the
something else
schools?
on
No,
Yes, ma'am.
the phrase is, Ron, you will spearhead that,
Yeah,
won't
I
you?
know. So to me, I say we go ahead with the way this is and start taking baby steps towards the community doing stuff, because it might backfire, What do they say about volunteers? You can count them on your hand. So,
Well, and especially this time of the year, everybody's so busy
yes.
that,
So.
like, to get everybody to,
I think you need to
commit to
sign
that.
soon to get December this
Yes.
year. Yes,
Yes.
so.
Definitely.
Okay, so do I have a motion?
I make a motion, we approve the 3-year contract.
I
as
already
written.
did, you're too late.
You want to do it?
I already did it.
Oh, then I'll second it.
Thank you.
Marnie, would you call the roll, please?
We do not have anyone signed up for public comment.
I forgot about the
After all
Christmas
that.
lights. I was so wrapped up in the thing. All right, go ahead. Marnie.
Okay, so Councilmember Anna Richards,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Don Horton,
Yes.
Councilmember Steve Friedman,
Yes.
Councilmember Deb Gillis.
Yes.
And Mayor Sharon Mahoney.
Yes.
That motion passes 5-0.
Yes, John?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Was just going to follow up on the Audubon question. I was able to find it. We do have a revocable license with them. It has a hold harmless agreement in it. We also required insurance with limits of, I think it was 1 million and 5 million, and they provided us with the evidence of that insurance as well. I provided copies of everything to Ron. It was originally signed under Brian Cook. So it was a couple years ago. It's been pending, and it's terminable. It's 1 year, but automatically renews. But it can be terminated by either party on 10 days' notice. It's non-exclusive, so they don't have like exclusive rights to the property, and it's also limited to 3 boats and 3 vehicles. So
Who monitors that?
that I don't know. We'll speak with Ron, and then but we'll
And
have to
there
figure-
is a safety issue with somebody, the kid that fell into the water there over Easter. So
Okay.
I had talked to Peter about maybe, should we fence in part of it or block it somehow? Because other people do use that. No, I'll tell you now. So, and, go ahead.
Well, I was just thinking, it's been open to the public all this time.
A lot of people use it. And it is our property, so just because the Audubons hold harmless doesn't mean everybody else's, if somebody got hurt there.
Correct. There is a provision in that says the Audubon Society shall be responsible for maintenance and for ensuring the premises remain in good and safe condition. So we can,
Can we
talk with
tighten
Ron,
that
we
up?
can look.
Can we tighten that up a little bit and maybe see what actually is going on there?
Yeah.
Okay, I appreciate that, just, okay? Anything else?
Move to adjourn.
Okay?
Can I just have 10 seconds to ask one question? It's very important.
I guess so.
Yes. Joe Wishmeyer, Plantation Key. This is to Mr. Quick and Mr. Saunders. With this Bill 180, how is that going to affect what Able East is doing with our comp plan? Do you have any idea? I mean, if it does pass, are they going to have to just postpone this, or can you give me any clue as to what's going on?
It wouldn't apply to all changes, just the changes that are more restrictive or burdensome. So when that comes through, we'll have to analyze them and see if those proposed changes, which ones are more restrictive and which ones are more burdensome, and those ones might have to be held off until after October 1st, 2027 if we want to pass them. So it's going to take some more work on everybody's end to make sure we're in compliance with the law and see that we can pass what we want to pass. But it's going to have a significant impact.
And I
yes.
guess we're going to let Able City know.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, meeting's adjourned. Thank you, everyone.